Good day to everyone. So in the last video, we have seen about the arrays and how to initialize the arrays and various initialization methods and change of the subscripts using the arrays and what happen if the array is out of bound and how to tackle them. This is what we have seen in the last class. So in this class, we are going to see about the whole array operation and how to use the subsets of the array to do the different operations and the allocated arrays. Introduction to the allocated arrays. So during some circumstances, the whole arrays may be used in arithmetic calculations as they were ordinary variables. So if two arrays are having a same shape and they can be used as the basic arithmetic operations, you can do it by applying the whole array or by the element by element basis. For example, this is the program where I have to add the two arrays element by element basis as well as the whole array operation. So where they have taken the two arrays A and B, and I have taking the C and D as another way, two different variables or two different arrays where I have to add the two arrays with the element by element as well as the whole arrays. So in the CI, the array CI is having a array addition of two arrays AI plus BI with the element by element basis, where I have to feeding the value of I one by one, so that it will first value C1 which is equal to A1 plus B1. That means the value of the element A1 which will be added to the element of the B1 will be added, and the result will be added and stored in the another variable C of I. So similarly, the I runs from 1 to 5. The element by element, the numbers of the AI and BI will be added and stored in the CI. Or you can also actually add the two arrays as like a variable, like a whole array operation, that is D is equal to A plus B. That means the array D, which contains the added number of A plus B, will give you the result. So the result of this operation and this operation will be the same one. So we can just print the two values and we can compare them. So this is the output. So once this is the output for the C of I, which is equal to A of I plus B of I, where I runs from 1 to 5, and here this is the whole array operation, which is D is equal to A plus B. You can see that it is both having a same answer whenever you have whether you have used the whole element by element operation or the whole array. You can do the basic arithmetic operations using the whole array. So these two arrays can be used as operands in an intrinsic operation like addition or subtraction or multiplication, only if the two arrays having the same shape. You can see that both arrays having the elements of 5 elements, so that you can directly use it as the whole array operation. If this is not having a same rank or a same shape, then you cannot able to use this kind of operations. So if two arrays are not comfortable, that means they don't have a different same shape, then if you attempt to do the arithmetic operations, then they will give you the compiler error. So like the normal the basic intrinsic operations like addition, subtraction and everything, so you can also use the intrinsic functions in the Fortran 90 as into the arrays. So the resulted arrays will contain the result of the applying the function as an input, that is whether in the element by element basis or the whole arrays. So these functions are called elemental intrinsic functions, like absolute value or sine, cos, the exponential values, or a logarithmic of an array. You can easily calculate using the corresponding the instructions. For example, if you have an array of A of 1 which is equal to -1, A of 2 which is equal to -3, A of 3 is equal to 4, and A of 4 is equal to 5. So these are all the elements. Suppose if you want to find out the the absolute value of this, then if you can just use the command called the abs of a, which will give you the answer like a of 1 which is equal, the a of 1 which will be equal to 1 plus 1, and a of 2 which is equal to 3, and a of 3 which is equal to 4, and this is a of 5, a of 4 is equal to 5. So just using the normal as like a normal variables using the intrinsic functions, you can also use the intrinsic function for the whole array operation. Okay. So next we are going to see how to use the subsets of the array to do the different operations. So in Fortran it is possible to either use the array as a element by element or the whole array for the basic arithmetic calculations. So in addition to that, it is also possible to use the subsets of the array for the calculations. So a subset is an array is called the array section. Suppose if you have a specific subset of an array which is called a subsection, and if you specify it by replacing the array subscript with this subscript triplet, then you can easily find out you can use the array subsets in the array. For example, the subscript 1 colon subscript 2 colon stride. So the subscript 1 is the first subscript to be included in the array subset, and the subscript 2 is the last subscript that can be used for that can be included in the array subscript, and stride is the incremental function, which is actually like the intrinsic do loop. So the starting value, the final value, and the count. That means increment value, which can be written as a subscript 1 colon subscript 2 colon the stride. For example, if you have an array named A, the array A having a dimension of 10, which is all the numbers inside the array is integers, then the values or the elements are of the A is 1 to 10. Suppose if you use the array subscript as A 1 is to 10 is to 2, that means the starting value is 1, ending value is 10, and incremented by the value 2, then the whole array can be containing only the element this array, the A of 1 is to 10 is to 2 array will contains only the A of 1, A of 3, A of 5, 7 and 10. So these are all the values which can, suppose if you use this array subscript, then only the values of A1, A3, A5, A7 and A10 will be taken for the account, and the other values will be, other elements will be neglected. Suppose if you use the A of 1 is to 10 is to 2. So in the subscript 1, subscript 2 and suppose if any one or all the components of the subscript triplet may be defaulted. So in subscript 1 is, suppose if the subscript 1 is missing from the triplet, then the default will be taken as a 1 is the default taken as a 1. The first element will be taken as a default 1. Suppose if the subscript 2 is missing from the triplet, it defines that the subscript of the last element in the array. Suppose if this subscript 2 is missing, and if similarly the stride is missing from the triplet, then the default will be the 1. 1 will be the default increment. So there are different possibilities of using the subsection, like you can use the first value, the last value with the increment, or suppose if you are using the first value and the final value without giving the stride, that means the increment will be 1, or you can just include only the subscript of the first, the first value, you just omitted the final value as well as the increment, so it will be include the first value. Similarly, you can just include the first value without the final value, you can just include the count value, or you can just omit the first value as well as the increment, you just put the final value itself. There are different possibilities, the final value with the increment value, or without including the first and final value, you can just put the increment itself, or you can just put it nothing. You just do the column will put you the default of including all the arrays the array elements into the array. For an illustration, suppose if you take an the Fortran instruction like integer I is equal to 3 and j is equal to 7, and you are including the array A, which is having the numbers A 1 to 10, and suppose if you have if you are defining array as A of open parenthesis with a colon without having any subscript 1 or subscript 2 or increment, then it contains all the values of the array. Suppose if you put it as a is equal a I comma I colon j, the value of I and j is already given here 3 and 7. So it will the starting value is 3 and the final value is 7 with the increment of 1. So it all include the values of 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 and omitted the other values. Similarly, if you put it as a subscript 1, subscript 2 as well as the stride, so as I is the increment value, that means 3 is the first starting value and 7 is the last value with the increment of 3, then in the array it all started with 3 and 7 with the increment of 3, so it will only include the 3 and 6. Similarly, you can also have a different combination. For example, a of I colon j, that means a of 3 colon 7 colon 7, with the starting value is 3, ending value is 7 and this increment is also 7, so it only include the a of 3. And a of I colon will include the starting value is 3 and the last value is not given, so it already taken the default as a 10 is the last value with the increment of 1. So it include all the values from 3 to 10. And if you put it as a of colon j, that means the first subscript is not given as well as the stride is not given, then it will include the first value as default up to the jth value, that means the 7th value with the increment of 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7 will be included in the array A of this array. Suppose the subscript and the subscripts, that means the first and final the subscripts is triplets are not given, only the increment value is given, then it taking the increment as 3, so the first value will be included with every increment of 3, it taken the value of the elements 1, 4, 7 and 10. So this is how you can use the subsets of the array to do the various operations. The subscripts, triplets, select ordered subsets of array elements for use in the calculations. So this is a way of using the subsets in the one-dimensional array. Similarly, you can also use the array subsets in the two-dimensional as well as the multi-dimensional array. So I hope you are clear about the how to use the subsets of the array to use the different operations. Okay. So next we are going to see about the allocatable arrays. So previously in whatever we have used in your previous examples in the arrays, we have defined the size of the array is initially, and then we have do the different operations using the arrays. So suppose if the defined value is increased, means increased, or the number of array values is increased by from the fixed value, then it will show you the it is called as out of bound arrays, and it will give you the compiler error during the operation. So in order to avoid this kind of situation, one can also allocate the array size while compiling the program. That means the user can give the value of the size of the array, then using this array size you can do the different operations. That is called the allocatable arrays. This can be done by just using the attribute called allocatable, and you can allocate the specified number of arrays using the command allocate. So the type of declaration which we have used is called the static memory allocation. Since the size of the array set is fixed at the compilation time, then it never changes. So the size of each array must be made large enough to hold the largest problem that a particular program will ever have to solve, which can be a very serious limitations. For example, if you have a very low memory computers or compilers, then the storing the large value in the array, it will give you the different problems. Suppose if we declare the array sizes to be large enough to handle the largest program, then the program will waste most of the memories just by allocating the number of elements for the corresponding array. However, if the array is made very small, then the program cannot solve the large problems. So the allocatable attribute will be actually using the dynamic memory declaration type. So the type declaration statement and the type. So in the type declaration statement, we actually allocate the using the allocate statement. We can just using the allocate statement, we can just allocate the size of the array, and you can use this memory for the corresponding array value. Suppose if you are using the allocatable function, then you have to also use the deallocate the statement to deallocate the free to free the memory of the corresponding compiler. For example, if you take the allocatable array with the format of real, and you can use the attribute called allocatable here with the dimension with the open and closed parenthesis without specifying the length of the array. We just enter them in the declare the array value. So the array variable a, which is can be allocatable. So once if you are using into the program, then you can use the allocate the list of arrays, whatever the arrays we have using in the program, then we can just include the value, the name of the array with the status of the status, with the state which is equal to status. This is actually used to find out whether the allocatable array is actually properly allocated or not. The status will give you the corresponding message with the logarithmic, the logical answer. Suppose if the status is successful, then it will give you the output as 0. Otherwise, it will give you the any non-zero integer value. For example, you can use the allocate with the array with the size of whatever the size is, you can give it, and the status is equal to status. The status is again the logical value. So the most common source of failure is not having the enough free memory to allocate the array. Suppose if the allocation is failed, then the stat, which is the stat class, will give you. So suppose if the stat class is not present in the corresponding allocatable statement, then the program will abort or without any doing any operation. So it should always recommended to use the stat function, the stat class, so the program will terminate gracefully if not enough memory is available in your allocated array for that. So that if it is always recommended to use the stat function, the stat class, once if you are using the command allocate or allocate, if you are using the allocatable arrays. Suppose an allocatable array may not be used in any way in a program until memory is allocated for it. Any attempt to use the allocatable array that is not currently allocated will produce the runtime error and cause the program to abort. So this Fortran includes a logical intrinsic function called allocated to retrieve this to solve this problem, or you can just test the program, the allocation status of the program array before attempting to use the corresponding array. For example, so here you can see that the array is allocated, means the array is allocated. Suppose the allocated the data is you check the input data, and the allocated memory is already available in the computer memory, or it will give you the compilation error or compilation message that the sufficient memory is not not allocated for the corresponding array. That means if this allocated input data is true, then it will actually read the data from the array. Otherwise, it terminates the program. So this logical function with the allocated statement is very useful to just check whether the allocated memory is properly used for given for the corresponding array value. So once if you are allocating the array size, so after the end of the program, you have to deallocate the memory of the allocatable arrays using the command called deallocate, and what are the list of the arrays, and you have to also give the status. Suppose for example, the deallocate the array name and the status yes. Suppose if the status is again 0, then the deallocation is successful. Otherwise, if it is greater than 0 with any positive integer value, then it will give you the failure of the deallocation. So it is always recommended to deallocate and deallocate the allocatable arrays once you have finished the program. So this practice is especially important for arrays allocated in subroutines and functions, which will we see in the later later chapters. Okay, so I will give you the one example for the how to allocate the arrays and how to use it in the program. I can give it to here. So I'm going to find out the same standard deviation which we have seen in the earlier classes. So instead of just giving the variable names or the constant the values, I'm going to use the array values. That means I have stored the data in a array in the file in a data file. I'm going to read the file and the data from the file, and then I have allocate the corresponding data from the file, and then I can use it for the different operations using the allocatable arrays. So here is it's as usual declaration statement. I'm also getting the file name, that means the data file name from the user, and if the file name is actually true and the corresponding data is allocatable to the memory to the corresponding the relevant array in this program, then I can use this file name, the file or data file to read the data, and then I can do the further operations. So I am asking the user to enter the name of the data file. So if the data file is the file name is entered correctly, that means the file is already in the computer or the computer directory, then the file name will be readed with the corresponding file name with the unit number. Then I have put the status of the file as old, that means it's already available in the folder, and the action is read, that means I am going to read the data from the corresponding file name with the status. So again the status will be 0, suppose if the reading is successful, otherwise it will give you the positive integer. So I am going to check whether this file is actually correctly opened or not. So if the status, that means this status is equal to 0, then it will do the operation. Otherwise it come out of the loop, then it will show you the error that the file open failed with the status of the corresponding status value, which will most probably a positive integer values more than 0. So if this is true, the status is equal to 0, then it will doing the while operation. Means I'm using the do, I'm going to run getting the numbers from the file name, the data file, and counting the total number of data available in the corresponding file. For example, if I'm just reading the values from the corresponding unit file, the unit with the corresponding unit, the file name unit, then I am checking the corresponding status of this file. So this the values of the arrays will be stored in the temporary variable which is called as temp. Then the if status is not equal to 0, then it will exit the program or exit the loop. Otherwise the number of n will be incremented by 1 when the status is true. That means the status is true. That means this is true, then the n will be incremented by 1. This will be doing indefinitely until it reaches the end of the program. That means the status will be equal to 0. So once this loop is once we are coming out of this loop, then the total number of data in the program, the file will be counted, which is stored in the variable n. Then I am going to allocate the array based on the number of data in the corresponding file. So I am going to allocate the array with the number of n with the status of, again it's a status. So if this corresponding an is actually allocated, then this allocate statement, allocate attribute will give you the status which is equal to 0. Otherwise it again will give you the any positive integer. So if this is 0, then I am going to again check it whether this status is 0. If the status is 0, then it again reading rewind, that means it actually again reading the same data file from the unit 5, and the value is actually stored in the variable a. So previously I have stored it that value temp, that means just a variable. Here I am going to use the array function a, that means array name a, to store the values of the data file, which can be used for the further calculation. That means I can find out the sum as well as the sum squared of the corresponding a, and then after this do loop I am going to find out, suppose if the n is larger than 2, then the values lesser than 2, then I have to enter the at least two numbers. If the value is larger than more than 2, then it calculate the x bar, the average as well as the standard deviation, then it print the results, which we already seen in the previous videos, how to how this the average as well as the sum average and the standard deviation is calculated and print the results. So again, so after completing the program, I have to deallocate the memory using the deallocate state attribute with the status. So the a is the array a will be deallocated after the statement with the status the 0. If again this status is non-zero, then deallocation will be failed. If this is 0, the status is 0, then the deallocation is successful. Okay, so you can see that this program I have used the different different if loops and the do loops. So each if loop and each do loops will be properly, each if loops is properly named with the corresponding names, the named if loops. For example, I have used the open file. I can use the end if here. That means I have used several end ifs, but I can easily find out that where this if is actually closed with using the named if loop. For example, I have used the end if of open file. That means this if loop is closed here. Similarly, I have a do loops, several do loops. So this is the first do loop where I have used the call underscore sum, which is actually closed here. So just seeing the program itself, I can know that where this do is actually included. Similarly, the if and else if statement also you can see here. I have used the n of is the if statement. It is actually closed here. So similarly, the if else, suppose that this if is having the another else file, else command, which is also using the same name where I have used here. So if you are using the if named if loops as well as do loops, it is always easy to find out the means always used for debugging as well as just for maintaining the program. Okay, so this is the corresponding output where I have taken the values of the data file random2.dat. So this file is already in the folder. So just I am reading the corresponding name of the folder. So the number of data in the folder is calculated, which is actually having the 50 values using the corresponding this operation. So after this operation, this n will be counted, that will be printed as a allocated size of an array, where here I have printed this. So which is actually shown here, the allocating of an array with size 50. So this 50 will be allocated to the corresponding allocated number a of n. So previously I have not like other programs which we have already seen in the earlier classes, I have not included defined the array value, the array size of the array I have included in the program itself. So using that I have calculated the corresponding standard deviation as well as the mean of the corresponding data. Suppose if the data file is wrong, that means the data file is not properly typed, that this will give you the error, the file open failed with the status, where I have already seen the show that the status is failed, then it will give you the any positive integer. So it will give you the error code as 2. It will give you any random number or any random value. So it actually given the value of 2. So this is how you have to use the allocatable arrays in your program. So instead of using the static array declaration. Okay. So I stop here. Then I will take it will explain how to use the intrinsic functions and other functions in the arrays in the next class. Thank you.